Greetings and welcome to the Now for Later podcast for the week of September 20th, 2020, where this week we discuss America.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the Now for Later podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Liam Duffy, alongside my quarter zip wearing fresh hair today, Mikey G.
What's going on, guys?
Your hair looks so fresh today.
Thank you. I actually get a cut tomorrow, so.
Oh, well.
Getting a little shaggy.
Yeah, well, it looks good. You look good,
Thank
Shaggy.
you.
You look good always, Mikey G.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thanks, man. So we're gonna go right into our new segment. Everyone loved it.
The reviews through the roof.
Yeah.
Views are going strong. +1 subscriber.
Epic win.
Epic win. Shout out to Lizzie Shaw, sharing our podcast, the only one who's doing their homework.
Bruh.
Doing what we ask.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of you better step up your game.
You gotta treat this like it's a Bed Bath and Beyond. You gotta give out those. You gotta get those emails.
Get those emails. We gotta get those subscribers.
Yeah, think of it like that.
We gotta get monetized.
Yeah.
Alright, so, back by popular demand is my segment, Absurd Current Events. In recent news, man stranded in lake saved by floating a floating tiki bar of priests. A sign from God. He prayed for help, and it arrived, it says. A man was stranded in 30 feet of water in upstate New York, hanging on for dear life to his kayak and his new $1,400 smartphone. And then men of the Lord came to rescue him. Jimmy McDonald, who was a substance abuse counselor and recovered substance abuser, was saved by Paulist Fathers, a Catholic religious group from St. Joseph's Seminary in Washington. A movement of the Holy Spirit is how one of the seminarians described it. They were on Lake George. They were missionaries, and for the day, they wanted to be present and help someone in need. And the choppy waters prevented this man from getting back to shore. A floating tiki bar of priests.
Mikey G, you told me emus were running around at a bar last week, and I can't believe this man was saved by a tiki bar of priests.
Men of the Lord.
On a tiki bar, on a lake.
They're living life to the fullest, which may be opposite of what a priest signs up for, but
yeah,
they saved this man's life, so clearly God had a plan for these men.
Yeah, wow, that's I imagine being saved by a tiki bar of priests.
I definitely would be praying to God that evening.
I would as well. And the tiki gods.
And the tiki gods. They just say God. We don't know which one they're referring to.
That's a good point. It could be any god.
In recent news, police search for alligator on the loose in Connecticut. An incident in Willimantic. Wildlife officials are searching for an alligator that was loose, sighted recently in a ravine near Eastern Connecticut State University.
What?
Typically, alligators are found in Florida, Louisiana, and as far north as North Carolina. It is illegal to dispose of them in the wild. This likely was an incident where an owner had an alligator as a pet and disposed him into a marsh.
Bruh. Eastern?
Yes.
That's really close to Yukon.
It's really close to Yukon. If an alligator ended up in Mirror Lake...
Can you imagine? We would have to change our mascot.
We would. I think that we would have to feed Jonathan to the alligator and say the dominance of the animal kingdom has been shown. Yukon Gators.
That's sick. Would the bones then be turned into bricks?
I think...
As all the other Jonathans and put in Homer Babbage Library.
Wait, what?
Isn't that what we said? Where the remains of all the other Jonathans were?
I know that there's remains of a Jonathan under a rock.
Yeah.
I don't know where that rock is.
It could be any rock, man. Any given rock.
So I guess if you're ever in the greater Yukon area, just start looking under rocks, you never know what you might find.
Watch out for alligators, apparently.
In recent news, man using live snake as face mask boards bus in England.
What?
The passenger reported that no one batted an eyelid when he boarded the bus. He was an unidentified man going from Swinton to Manchester. We know someone from Swinton. He had a snake wrapped around his neck, and another rider snapped a photo. She believed the man was only wearing a funny mask until the reptiles started to slither over the handrails. The woman found the incident, and I quote, really funny, and the other passengers didn't seem bothered. Authorities said the snake is not a proper face covering during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I guess if you're a reptile-loving man or woman out there, think twice before putting that snake around your neck and walking out in public.
Yeah, snakes are not COVID-proof, I guess.
Apparently not. Even though it does provide a barrier between the mouth and nose and the outside world.
Yes, but it's too unpredictable.
That's very true.
You know, I imagine it's wrapped around a couple of times. Unless it's like a girthy snake.
It was around his neck as if it was a necklace, and then it went around again, and then like the neck was probably still like 2 or 3 feet long. Like,
oh wow,
the man was sitting down and it was still wrapped around the handrail.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy. Snake face mask. It's kind of cool though.
Yeah.
Like, you trust a snake trusts you. That's cool.
Symbiosis.
Mm-hmm.
To check out these articles and so much more, check in the description below where you'll find the links.
Alright, Mikey G, that was a good section of ACE, man. The unintentional acronym.
Yes.
ACE. We at UConn love acronyms.
Yes, and there's been a request for merchandise, so I think that ACE would be a beautiful t-shirt or hat or something.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a coffee mug.
I like that. If you want to see some Now For Later merchandise, why don't you drop some of your favorite Now For Later quotes in the comments section below? And maybe it'll find its way on a t-shirt or mug or sticker. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. And I think ACE would be a really nice... We'll make a nice logo, what the news station will look like.
Yep.
I like that.
I aced it.
Bruh.
The laugh track just ended. Alright, so why don't you introduce this topic that we're going to do?
So over the summer, I went on a wonderful road trip from my native Connecticut down to South Carolina. About 18 hours in the car.
Mm-hmm.
You go through a lot of different areas.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it got my wheels turning.
Mm.
Is the concept of America romanticized, or is it really what people expect? Now, as an American, I naturally am a little biased.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do think we live in a beautiful nation. We're very fortunate people. And, you know, our listeners are, I believe, all American.
Yes.
And they would probably agree. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of maybe someone who's not from America.
Yes.
When they come here, and we all know that there's literature, films about the American lifestyle, very glamorized, some not so much, but I think that Hollywood's vision of America can be very, polished, and it's this, ideal nation.
Mm-hmm.
What is America really like? Beyond, what Alexis de Tocqueville wrote in Democracy in America, how wonderful this country was.
First of all, I like the Alexis de Tocqueville shout out. He very important. He was marketing America.
He was.
Before marketing America was a thing. And shout out to all the Vills.
Yes.
We got a couple near us. Thompson.
Hazard. Plain.
Plain, yeah.
My name is Jeff.
Yeah. That's a really it's like a multi-pronged question, It's like what is America like? I feel like it depends on where you are, like geographically, what you're doing, who you are. I feel like America means a different thing to everybody who lives in it. There's not really a single answer that can be, this is what it is. But I feel like that's the case for everything, it's a really an individualistic sort of point of view that you need to assess the nation to which we live. What do you think the answer to that is?
I think that in major metropolitan areas, or the suburbs of major metropolitan areas, live up to the expectation that America is this beautiful place. I went to Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
What you think of the South really is alive down there. You know, it's a much slower pace of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though we're in a pandemic, you know, you still saw people, you know, playing music on street corners, or, you know, in the parks, people were, you know, peddling their wares. You know, I feel like that's something that in the South is a little more acceptable. People are just, you know, they don't really, not that they don't care as much, but they're, you know, they take things a little less to heart. I feel like, you know, Southern hospitality is not dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's like a harsh sort of generalization of Southern living, but I still use the term Southern hospitality. But I feel like even when I go through New York,
Yeah.
I mean, there's really sort of Route 95.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't go through many nice neighborhoods. You know, the inner city of really just Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
are really nice because, you know, money's been poured into them. You know, beautiful buildings and history and, you know, Central Park and things like that. But, you know, when you're going over like the George Washington Bridge, it's, you know, the infrastructure's not great, and that's more what city living is like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a, you know, very industrial, kind of grimy, and, you know, because not everyone can afford the penthouse apartment of, you know, some Fifth Avenue apartment building.
Yeah.
You know, that's glamorous living. For
Yeah.
most people, it's, you know, you're in the Bronx or Queens or, you know, somewhere on the outskirts.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be as nice. So I think that these are people that want the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
They romanticize in their eyes what is New York City. You know, you probably think of some 1920s scene of, you know, it's the Gilded Age, and people are living their best lives, and it's a lively city, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's clean, and everything's just great.
Martinis.
Jazz
clubs.
But nowadays I think that poverty is, not that there wasn't poverty then, but I think that now, like in a post-depression world, some parts simply never recovered. Or they recovered, but then, since they were cheaper after the Depression,
Mm-hmm.
lower income people started to inhabit these areas, kind of keeping it a little bit, keeping the value of the neighborhood lower than, say, middle of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And poverty is a real problem in America. But if I'm a tourist from, say, Europe, and I come to New York City,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to want to see the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, the Freedom Tower, Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
But am I going to go to, you know, the Bronx? Am I going to go to Harlem? You know, are those on my list of places I have to see? Sure, there are people that want to go and, you know, see what the city's really like. They want to, you know, venture off, you know, Fifth Avenue and go into what I would say the real city is.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to unpack here. Like, what is a real city like? New York, you know, you think of Manhattan, like you said, in Times Square, but that's not really the city. That's the facade. It's the
brochure.
Yeah, exactly. That's the picture you take in that Times Square, and, you know, in front of the screens. And, you know, what is a real city? You know, I guess it's where people live and where people work. You know, that's a real city. And part of there is these areas. The reason why these areas are so expensive is so because you have to, you can't talk about cities and not bring up, you know, the obvious gentrification of a lot of areas in cities that have just been, I mean, talk about an area that's been gentrified. You know, the one borough of, you know, New York we haven't really, other than Staten Island, that we haven't mentioned is Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know, Brooklyn used to be, you know, mean, tough streets, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be very, you know, livable and affordable housing, and now Brooklyn is, you know, a hipster's paradise.
Yeah.
And it is $500,000 apartments and coffee shops
Mm-hmm.
and Apple stores.
To me, that's the essence of New York City now. You know, the historic, tourist traps of New York are like stories of a world gone by.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Brooklyn is now the new New York City. People who have fresh ideas go to Brooklyn now. A millionaire goes to Manhattan.
Yeah.
I don't know who goes to Queens or the Bronx. I don't.
Well,
I'm like, if you were, it might be affordable to get a place there and commute into work.
Yeah.
But if you're just living there, I think that's different than what's your purpose. Living in New York and working in New York are two completely different things.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of people work in New York but live in Connecticut.
Yeah.
A lot of people live in New York or work in New York and live in Jersey City or even some parts of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, that just also speaks to, like, the price of living. Like, if you're living, like, 2 states away and you're working in New York City, then
Yeah.
the rent is expensive.
Yeah. I was reading recently, though, that the pandemic might actually drive real estate prices way down. People want out. People don't want to be in, this place where, they've seen a disease will spread like
Oh my God,
wildfire. Yeah, I guess that's insensitive to say now. But it will ravage, a city's population because people are just so close to one another.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the best thing to happen to New York is real estate prices kind of dip a little.
Mm-hmm.
So then the people who really need to live in New York can now maybe do it a little more affordably.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to break the bank to live in a place where you're going to succeed. If you are in the entertainment industry, you work in Broadway or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to live in, New Jersey or Connecticut, go for it. That might be a little more affordable. But I think that there's something to be said about living in the city. Being close to where you work, having the flexibility of saying, I'm in a theater till, midnight, 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to now ride 2 hours home.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, hop one subway stop,
Mm-hmm.
and a 5-minute walk to my apartment, wherever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
You can't talk about America without talking about change. Change that needs to happen or change that has happened. Because we are a nation of immigrants, historically.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow we've taught xenophobia.
Mm-hmm.
How can we be a nation of immigrants without embracing immigrants? Now, I believe in the legal process, people shouldn't be just jumping the border and running for the nearest farm and, that's illegal. Let's enforce the laws, but
Mm-hmm.
let's not, let's solve our problems and make America the haven it's supposed to be. Positive change.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's all politics. No one likes politics, but eventually someone will realize that it's not political, it's common sense. Any city won't be a beautiful place again until, homelessness is eradicated or the poverty line has been not lowered. The poverty line is gone.
Yeah.
But I think, thinking maybe moving a little south from New York,
Mm-hmm.
everyone thinks of New York, but what's rural America like? Pennsylvania or even south of that. I know that if Route 95 is your major route along the eastern seaboard from Maine to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
there are, in New York, it's a very busy place. It's one of the main ways to get in and out of the city. The GW Bridge. But down places like Virginia, North Carolina, it's just a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
People live off the sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's this, luxurious town. But it always, I always see, like, it's not a trailer park per se, but, just very small, rectangular houses,
Mm-hmm.
usually a little run down, just on this huge open piece of land
Mm-hmm.
on Route 95. And that makes me think, like, you are not really near any town.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the draw to this place because it was cheap?
Mm-hmm.
Was the draw because I guess if you say cheap, it's because they couldn't afford anything else. But even then, I think, like, okay, if you have a rundown house, you at least have all this land.
Mm-hmm.
But it's undeveloped land.
Yeah.
So it always kind of makes me wonder, like, what's their version of the American dream? Is theirs to live out Thomas Jefferson's agrarian dream of every man has several acres of land? Or he's living a humble life. You kind of make up stories for these people that you don't actually know. I'm only basing these judgments on what I see.
Yeah. That's my dream, by the way. The yeoman farmer. That's my dream.
I think every man should have an acre of land, at least.
Yeah. And woman.
And woman. Mankind.
Yes. What is... everyone's marrying a dream. I'd say some people don't have dreams. I'd say some people's dreams might be too ambitious. Some people's dreams are too low for what they can do. There is like a cyclicality to sort of getting stuck, the feeling of getting stuck, the way some people think, it's like there's a problem, I have to leave, I have to go, I have to try something new, I have to go to this place, I'll have my chance if I make it to the big city, or if I go to XYZ. But then there's also just sometimes a person may want to leave this a bad state of poverty, and it's just very hard to get out of,
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie The Florida Project?
No.
I think you'd like it. And it touches on that a lot, and it's just about this, like, single mother who got pregnant when she was a teenager, living out of a motel, paying her landlord cash, every, month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right outside of... It's in Kissimmee.
Mm-hmm.
Right outside the Magic Kingdom,
Yeah.
And you can see in the shots, there's helicopters doing tours and airplanes coming in. You can see the silhouette of the castle in the back, which is something that both of us love. We're both, like, huge Disney fans, and we love it. And then right outside are these motels and these people that have been so impoverished that they can barely afford, clothes for their children, or they can't even get a car, or live in a house, or even an apartment. They have to live out of a motel, Like, that is sort of the flip side of America to me,
Mm-hmm.
It is the Magic Kingdom, the most amazing, magical, beautiful place where it's just happiness and amazingness, and then there's also poverty,
That's an interesting point. And to think that someone, the prices that Disney charges are absurd.
Yeah.
They are, I might say, one of the most successful 21st century companies.
Yeah.
They are the linchpin of the entertainment industry.
Oh, yeah.
If they were to collapse, I think Hollywood, as we know it, would be just ripped to pieces.
Yeah.
It'd be in shambles. But to think that they're a stone's throw away from the most popular tourist destination in America,
Mm-hmm.
and to think that people flock to it from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
and they couldn't even afford a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
They live so close,
Mm-hmm.
and they see what successful or well-off people can do, and they can't get it for themselves. And there's something to be said about, this hellish cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have wealth without having poverty.
Yeah.
And every poor person wants to be wealthy, but no wealthy person wants to be poor.
Yeah.
It's a one-way stream.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, it has to start somewhere
Mm-hmm.
and end somewhere. It's not a loop.
Yeah, exactly.
But I see a lot, particularly near, like, college campuses.
Mm-hmm.
The college campus itself is very busy.
Yeah.
If it's like UConn, it's a rural campus. or, other, more urban settings. The university campus itself is usually very nice. It has its own infrastructure. They can, maintain their own, water, electricity, all things like that. The roads are always paved well. It's a very welcoming, clean environment to attract the students. It's a business. We know that. But you get off their campus, and what do you see? UConn is a great example. It's usually very small, if not run down, houses. You're driving through really the middle of nowhere. It's in the woods. But I mean, I remember Clemson was like this too. It's more or less a rural campus. But the area around it is not necessarily, this wealthy, well-off town where, successful alumni go to live, when they can get a well-paying job. I'm never going to move to Storrs, Connecticut. I'm going to graduate. Why on earth would I go back to Storrs?
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing. Since the graduates of that university aren't going back there, because we all know a college degree helps you make more. That's a statistic, a true one. Why would you go back to where your college campus was? Part of me feels like they build these campuses in remote locations because when they were founded, most of them sometime during the 19th century, they wanted land. They wanted to be able to expand and develop. They knew that, they, I'm sure, thought that, they would urbanize to their campus. So they chose this place where they could be isolated and learn and not be distracted, but at the same time leave room for improvement. Well, I think during the Industrial Revolution, they kind of overestimated what urbanization was going to do. How could Hartford expand all the way west to Yukon, or how could any city in Rhode Island do the same the other way? So it kind of left it in the middle of nowhere. But, it's a little disheartening when, you're driving there and it's like, well, this is kind of upsetting. Like, there's, nothing around the campus. Everything there is to serve the campus. But, the kids who go to, E.O. Smith, where are they from?
Exactly.
That area, I've never been to Mansfield, beyond the Yukon area, but, Mansfield is no Suffield.
Yeah.
I can tell you that for a fact. Just something to chew on. The same state, one of the smaller states.
Yeah.
It takes me 30, 45 minutes to get there. And the difference from my town to their town is immense.
Yeah.
Even from, Suffield out to, Stafford. You could put, a gradient.
Yeah. I mean, especially, Connecticut just being one of the, craziest, wealth discrepancy states, We have some of the highest earners in the country and then some of the most low-income, areas.
Yeah. Well, without Fairfield County, we would really...
We'd be middle of the road.
We'd be middle of the road. Part of me feels like Stamford and Greenwich and Darien and Westport might as well be a part of New York. Because, Westchester County is so wealthy. That's just kind of state borders mean nothing geographically. So, that wealth is kind of spread. The radius from New York City. Some falls in, upper state New York. Some falls in New Jersey. Some falls in Connecticut. So it when people think of Connecticut, they think of Greenwich. Those beautiful scenes of this beautiful New England town. It only looks that way because, millionaires. Isn't Tommy Hilfiger selling his house for how many millions of dollars? Tens of millions?
Yeah.
That just goes to show you how wealthy people are.
Yeah.
And then right next door is Bridgeport, which might as well be one of the poorest cities in the state.
Yeah, I mean, when you say Connecticut, I don't think of Mystic or the sea. I don't think of the ocean. I think of farms. I think of the rolling hills that we see, or the forest or something like that. When someone says what's Connecticut or what's home, That's what I think of. And I think that's sort of like the biggest, like, America is huge.
Like, incomprehensibly huge.
It is huge. You know, and it's really weird how I'm in Suffield, Connecticut, and this is what I see, and then I can go, you know, I can drive down 30 hours to Dallas, Texas, and it's like I'm in a different world. It does not look the same at all.
Yeah.
Architecture is different. Our terrain is different.
Different cultures. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can go from the desert of the Southwest to the lush forests of the Northwest
Mm-hmm.
to the plains,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then down to the marshes and swamps of the South, and then up to, you know, let's go upper state Vermont
Mm-hmm.
or New Hampshire, which are, I don't even know what they're, mountains everywhere, either the Rockies or the Appalachians, and, you know, if you're in the mountains, you know, you could have, you know, just a winter wonderland for 3/4 of you, or Alaska even.
Mm-hmm.
I always forget, it's not even, you know, if America, the mainland, isn't large enough,
Yeah.
Alaska's half the size of mainland America. I don't know if that's a true statistic. It's huge.
Oh, it is massive.
And Hawaii is just teeny tiny.
Yeah, but again, think about Alaska and Hawaii. They're not even, like, a part of the country, and they're a part of the country, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm, like, physically, like...
Yeah. Well, they don't... Hawaii wants to be independent again. I can't blame them. I feel like the Polynesian culture is so distinct,
Mm-hmm.
and French Polynesia is still a thing.
Yeah.
And to think that all these Polynesian islands are still together and Hawaii has now been ripped from them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fascinating that they were a monarchy
Yeah.
and that they still have their palace and all the things like that. I think it would be amazing, not to say I support, you know, an uprising of the Hawaiian people against the Union, but it would be amazing if they were independent. I think they would make a fantastic nation. You know, such a vibrant culture that they could put back into their streets.
Yeah.
Because now, you know, as an American, I can travel there without a passport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they regulate, like, what comes on the island, because if an invasive species or a disease gets on there, like, it's trapped.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they don't regulate who comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can come and go. But, I mean, the scale of America, yeah, it is larger than life. You know, I've read articles about how, you know, even down to, like, the portions of our food, everything is larger in America.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we should all count ourselves lucky to be Americans. You know, we went from being a colony of the British to being the greatest nation
Mm-hmm.
in the world. And at one point, that was a non-disputable fact.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays, you know, it depends on what metric you're using to measure greatness.
Yeah.
You know, is it the economy, or is it, you know, your culture, you know, how happy your society is?
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy. I mean, and it's wonderful to be able to say, like, I can travel within my own country and experience so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also weird to say, I could fly 6 hours to London, or I could fly 6 hours to LA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one's on a totally different continent, and one's, you know, the other extreme of our nation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might actually be shorter to London.
Yeah, well, that's because that's a Dutch dream, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I also think if you ever see a map, like, it's faster, if the map is flat, it's faster to fly in an arc.
Yeah.
If you follow the curvature,
Mm-hmm.
than attempt to fly straight.
Yeah.
Naturally, the path will curve. So, I think the North Atlantic, at that point, everything starts to kind of taper. It's not as broad as it is at the equator.
Mm. Isn't that... Was it you? Do you know what the closest state in America to Africa is?
I don't.
Maine.
Is it?
Maine is the closest state to Africa.
I definitely believe that. If you look how far north Europe is,
Mm-hmm.
it's deceiving.
It's up there.
I mean, half of Connecticut is still a part of the African plate when Pangea broke up. So it makes sense the north part of the United States has African land, African pieces of Africa, and the southern part does not. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if the southern doesn't, but we definitely, like, there's a lot up here. I'm no geologist. I don't know rocks quite as well as you do.
Oh, I love rock. I mean, we've got some great rocks, but where are we going? What was our train of thought before we talked about curvature? Just this like, you see, and also what makes it so interesting is we are a multicultural nation. You know, you think of other countries that are huge, or you know, or with huge populations. You know, like Japan, or China, and there are several cultures within those nations, but America is just such a clashing of cultures.
Yeah,
It's not the melting pot that you hope it would be. It's a chunky melted pot, you know? It's like a stew.
Yeah. Well, so cities, I would say, are melting pots. New York's definitely a melting pot because it's in such a confined area. Yeah, there's neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But, you know, in terms of the scale, like, it's definitely, like, all mixed in together.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, the Mexican influence in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico and Southern California, I think that is fascinating. You know, it kind of shows that the borders that nations draw are seemingly meaningless.
Yeah.
You know, Mexican culture doesn't stop at the Rio Grande.
No.
It bleeds for hundreds of miles into what's our territory. But I mean, culture, again, a border's no metric.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that. I think that it's fascinating. And I think that it's great that, you know, in Texas, we have a little bit of, you know, Mexican heritage. You know, the Alamo or things like that. You know, you can feel how other people think and live. And, you know, they certainly live different than we live up here. With different standards of living, different, you know, I'm sure Mexican food has a much larger grasp on society down there.
So good.
You know, I never get Mexican up here. Like, why would I? You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's just not a part of my culture.
Unless it's Camposanos.
Where?
Camposanos. Oh my god. Camposanos is my favorite restaurant in Dallas.
I've never been there.
I got good Mexican food on mine. Acapulco's.
Yep.
That's what I meant to say. Acapulco's is a good restaurant up here. Camposanos is the best Mexican food I've ever had in Dallas. But yeah, and you think of like, it's just so crazy. Every place like every region, every state, you know, you can go down from the broad culture of America down to like a microculture of like a town.
Yeah.
And every place is known for something, you know? We're used to New England, sort of the apple, you know, we're going into autumn. You know, that's sort of our thing. Pumpkins, Halloween.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a New England thing. And then you think of like California and the surf and skate culture and I don't know, the Midwest and their kind hearts.
I mean, I think that we are. Hold on.
You know, I mean, just, you know, going out further, like just Connecticut within New England, how different it is than Mass, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's the same, but it's different.
And I feel like one of the reasons our nation is great because we don't need to worry about. We can if we want, but we don't have to worry about government. Democracy frees us of those bonds. You know, it's our civic duty to vote. It's our civic duty to, you know, be an involved member. But at no point do I wake up and go, what's the government going to do to me today? You know, without the media, I would have no concern.
Yeah.
I have full faith that the people in Washington can handle it. You know, but I feel like if I was in a place maybe like China or Russia where, you know, there's, you know, their governments are not democratic. You know, I might be concerned like, is the government can interfere with my life today.
Yeah.
And I think that democracy makes... We're not the only democracy in the world, but I think that we have kind of set a gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, the Greeks established it. But now I think that our democratic republic shows how it can be functional.
Mm-hmm.
And it, I love architecture.
Mm-hmm.
I recently endeavored on a project to recreate a piece of the U.S. Capitol. I feel like it sums up what America is.
Mm.
At the very top, there's a beautiful statue
Yes.
of a woman, the Statue of Freedom,
Yes.
with a helmet with an eagle on it. She has a shield and a wreath, I believe, of olive leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has a sword in its sheath. It's just so beautiful. I feel like it encompasses what America is.
Emblematic.
Yes. And it sits atop a tholos, a round structure. Greek architecture. And I think that it represents both democracy, Athenian democracy.
Mm-hmm.
But it also represents how we are not the inventors of this. We have taken so much from other people, from other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's they call it the temple of democracy. America is not a place of temples, and it's not the birthplace of democracy. It all alludes to the fact that we're a nation built by other people, other influences. I feel like this nation was meant to be some sort of a utopia.
Mm.
The Protestant city on a hill.
City on a hill.
And now, we have enough space where we can have several cities on a hill.
Mm.
Someone else's vision of a city on a hill. That vision is long since dead. But what's today's vision of perfection? Think how old New York is versus how old Phoenix, Arizona is.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how dead the center of the Midwest is. It's just vast plains of nothing. But that doesn't mean a new city couldn't pop up.
Mm-hmm.
A new city on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much room. We've changed so much. And there's still so much room for change. And there's not a single day where I am like, this country is just going to poof out of existence.
Yeah.
Political unrest is one thing. We'll overcome it. We always have. It won't
will.
go away overnight. It'll require, bold action.
Mm-hmm. Vote. If you're old enough to vote, register to vote and fill out your, they should be sending you in the mail, if you're registered to vote, your ballots.
Yes.
The planning sheets. Register to vote.
But, we have such potential. And it's our generation's time to realize that potential by either building a physical place, a haven,
mm-hmm.
or by fixing or modernizing
rebuilding
what's been given to us.
I think that's beautiful, man. I think that's just, I don't know how much longer you want to talk about this, but I feel like that was such a beautiful way to end this conversation,
We could talk about America all day.
Of course.
There are so many layers.
Like an onion.
And at the very center, I don't know what's at the very center.
Guess we'll have to find out next time.
I guess we will.
That was a good conversation about, the nation. And again, you need to, if you're 18 years old, register to vote, get out there and make the change you want to see.
Yeah.
Every vote counts. Don't think otherwise.
And don't listen to what other people say.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to vote for a candidate and you think your friends will think of you differently because you voted for this person, or if you think that, your family members are going to disown you,
mm-hmm.
you are voicing your opinion. If these people are telling you who to vote for, tell them you can vote for them. That's
mm-hmm.
your voice.
Mm-hmm.
But what's my voice?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I would not suggest voting for a third-party candidate.
Yeah.
I feel like, in theory, it's like I couldn't decide, so I voted for, Jorgensen or whoever, these other people are. there is zero chance that these
Yeah.
people are actually going to win. I only have heard the name Jorgensen because my neighbor has a lawn sign.
And we work there.
Well, that Jorgensen. Albert Jorgensen.
Yeah. This is Joe, right?
Yes. Just J-O, not J-O-E. It's a woman.
Josephine.
Really.
I believe so.
But, listen to what your heart says. If you want to vote for a third party, by all means, but don't vote for a third party if you're torn about who to vote for. There's enough resources to figure out which person most satisfies your political needs.
Yeah. In summary, follow your heart. Be good to others. And,
God bless America.
yeah, man. Joanne, not Josephine. Joanne.
Joanne Cohen. This message was not approved by her.
Jorgensen. Oh, wait. Yeah, Jorgensen.
Cohen.
Joanne.
Joe20.org. We're accepting sponsors.
We are accepting SeatGeek. Actually, there are no concerts right now. We're gonna wrap up with a Mikey G lib. I didn't write it, so we're just gonna put it in my old faithful website, rankworks.com. Mikey G, can I get one noun? Can I get two nouns?
2 nouns.
Yeah.
Plant and star.
Can I get a plural noun?
Feet.
Feet.
As in the things at the end of your legs.
Feet.
Yes.
No S, or do you want the S?
Let's put the S in there. Let's make it funny.
We're having fun today. We're being bad. Feats. Feats of strength. 2 adjectives.
Spicy
Ooh.
and blustery.
Blustery. It was kind of blustery today.
It was beautiful weather. Beautiful beginning of fall weather.
I love it. Oh, I could talk about fall. Adverb, please.
Adverb. Accordingly.
Can I have a superlative?
Most likely to start their own podcast.
We should have gotten that one.
We should have. What did you get? Best hair? Best dressed?
No, Troy got best hair.
Oh, that's right.
I got best dressed. I don't remember.
Or were you second place for that? And we were all... Because, the more popular people always... Just the same names kept repeating in place number 1.
Yeah. I don't remember. Ooh. Can I have 2 past tense intransive verbs?
Intransive?
Intransive verbs.
And what is intransive in reference to?
An intransive verb does not allow a direct object. Laughed would be one because it doesn't require an object.
After it?
Yeah. So the pirates laughed, right?
Okay.
You don't need anything. The pirates found. That's not an intransive verb.
Because you need a noun after it.
What did they find? Yes.
Okay.
That's your English lesson of the day. And I learned that too.
Alright, so 2 past tense intransive verbs.
Yes.
Let's go... I choked.
Choked.
And... Would red be one? Because you don't necessarily have to put a noun after it. Let's do that.
Yeah, I say that. Gerund?
Oh, that's ending in ing.
Oh, yeah.
In the gerund. Is it a noun or a verb in the gerund? That's what it wants?
Yeah, gerund. Transitive.
Transitive?
I believe that means...
The opposite of...
Intransitive. It involves an object.
Smoking.
Smoking, baby. Geographical terrain.
The Rocky Mountains. Rocky Mountain High.
Dude, I've been listening to so much John Denver, and when I go down to Dallas for Thanksgiving, I'm going to drive to Colorado.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do they got out there? Besides a lot of weed.
The beautiful landscapes, the Rocky Mountains, John Denver. He's dead.
Is Texas really that close to Colorado?
No, it's just I want to go.
Oh, okay.
And we have a family friend who lives there. So
Osme?
Osme. Place.
A place. Kissimmee.
Kissimmee, Florida. Okay, we're going to need 3 body parts.
Here we go. We got the ears.
The ears.
We got the diaphragm.
Breathe from the diaphragm.
Yes. And then we have the Achilles heel.
The Achilles heel.
The 3 most important body parts.
You need to hear, you need to yell, and you need pain. You need a weakness.
Pain sometimes reminds us that we can indeed feel.
Amen. A plural time period.
Plural? The 60s.
That's foreshadowing for another topic we're going to have.
It is.
In October. An emotion.
Excited. Let's go positive.
A sound.
Kerplunk.
A relationship.
Engagement.
Engagement. A magical time.
One which I don't believe I will ever reach. I shall die a bachelor, as Benedict does in Much Ado. Well, he doesn't die a bachelor. I adopt his viewpoint from Act 1.
That is true. Spoilers for Much Ado if you haven't read it yet.
Bruh.
No one reads Shakespeare these days.
We'll get there. I feel you, man. Plural occupation.
Strippers.
My name is Jeff.
Strippers. Mikey G. 2 persons.
2 persons as... What do you mean? Like 2 names?
Yeah.
Mary and Joseph.
Mary.
The juxtaposition between strippers and Mary and Joseph is... This is going to be an award-winning piece of literature.
A first name.
First name, let's go... Winifred.
Winifred.
That wasn't the one I was thinking of, but I can't think of it.
What an old woman name. 2 numbers.
3 and 9.
3 is a multiple of 9.
That it is. 9 is a perfect square.
Which is?
3.
Can I get 2 plural foods?
Sticky rice and tandoori chickens.
Tandoori chickens. We're doing Indian food tonight.
We're doing Indian food tonight.
Shape.
Sphere.
Beautiful shape. And an exclamation.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Bruh.
This one is called The Ball Game.
Take me out to the ball game.
America's pastime.
That it is.
I feel like football is more of America's pastime now.
Depends on the season. It could be hockey, I feel like. But that's really Canadian.
I love hockey. It'll never be the level of...
Canadians will, like...
Yeah.
They go hard.
Yeah. It will never be as like Canada in terms of hockey. Anyways, the ball game. Yesterday, I went to a plant ball game at Kissimmee. The tickets cost $3 each, and it was worth it because it was the most likely to start their own podcast plant ball game I've ever seen. We took our seats, and when the refreshment Mary came by, we ordered sticky rice and tandoori chickens to munch on. The players came out onto the Rocky Mountains, the onions choked, and read at their arrival. Right at the beginning, 960s into the game, Bob, the star Charles, broke his ears and had to be carried off the Rocky Mountains.
Bruh.
It's a long walk.
I felt excitement about it, but the game had to go on. Shortly afterward, Winifred, Spicy Diaphragm Johnson, scored, and a curt plunk went up from the fans. The halftime act consisted of a team. This is a halftime show I want to see. The halftime act consisted of a team of strippers smoking in a sphere.
It sounds heavenly.
Oh. In the second half, a foul ball plant flew over my Achilles heel and popped the Joseph sitting behind me.
Poor Joseph.
Yikes, the Joseph shouted accordingly, and I covered my engagement joy's ears, lest the obscenity offended. Other than that, we had a blustery time. That was definitely the most confusing Mikey G lives, but I think we need to make a shirt of strippers smoking.
in a sphere.
Man, yeah, we'll link this in the description below too if you want to play from rinkworks.com.
Of course.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Now for Later podcast. Thank you so much for giving us your time, lending us your ears. Come, listen. We stand on our soapbox, but this is for you. We hope you enjoy the conversation today.
We always enjoy providing these conversations for you. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Drop us a like or a comment. Tell us what you think, what do you want to hear. Share with your friends. We are more than happy to adjust to what the viewers want.
Yes, this is a democracy.
This is a democracy. Democracy in America.
Mm-hmm.
So, thanks again for listening. God bless.
God bless. Stay epic.